Shall we talk a bit more about Defixio then? You've been giving us little bits here and there as we go along, but let's sort of really get into the nitty gritty of that. So it's out on, is it the 13th of December it's out?
Friday the 13th. Yes, I'm so excited about it coming out. It's going to be no time at all because the end of this year is just flying in days. So yeah, it'll be available on all streaming services and stuff, and there will be more details coming regarding hard copies and things like that, etc., etc. So leave that with me. Announcements will be on the way.
This is me being a wee bit nerdy, Becca, but I take it Friday the 13th was deliberate, given the kind of lore of the album.
Yes, absolutely. So Defixio, like the name, the title and that, and what a Defixio is, like in history and mythology, Defixios are cursed tablets. So yeah, it's like an omen, you know what I mean? Like and also 13 is genuinely one of my favorite numbers. And I don't know if you've ever seen the Speak No Evil music video, but in that video, I'm also wearing a t-shirt that says Lucky 13 on it. So there's these trails of things through other things that matter to me. And also, not so much with Defixio, but in Speak No Evil, there's certain tunes that are even certain lengths and things like this. And certain musical things happen at certain points that are certain numbers and all this kind of. I'm just a wee witch, man.
See, I didn't pick up on that, but I do love that shit. Like, I'd go in for all that. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's deep thought in every. I don't do anything without thinking very deeply about it. Like everything, I'm very meticulous, especially when it comes to the sort of presentation of a project. Like even the date is part of that, you know what I mean? And no one's going to forget it, do you know what I mean? As well, it's an easy one for folk to remember. So hopefully the second it rolls round and they wake up and look at their phone that morning and see Friday the 13th, they're like, oh, it should be up on Spotify. Or hopefully a couple of people anyway. Yeah, and even the January the 18th as well. I'm not going to get into it, but it has some meaning to me as well. Maybe I'll do the making of the Defixio mini documentary where I'll go into all that kind of stuff. You're giving me ideas now. This is good.
Earlier on, you said that Defixio was kind of it was like a sort of an unapologetic, this is me kind of album. Do you want to elaborate on that a bit more and how the sort of counterpart to that, the Work in Progress album you've got going all kind of work together?
Yeah, so like with us talking about Speak No Evil, so as you've probably picked up on, like a lot of it, even titles of tunes and that, were very heavily based around concept writing. So using a concept to sort of like veil and talk about particular topics, but also make it open to interpretation. That was really important to me with Speak No Evil. Because as much as it was I was writing about personal stuff, I was trying to make it as relatable as possible and translatable as possible. With Defixio, though, from the second I started making it, it was a completely different process because I was in a completely different place and a completely different person as far as, you know, artistically goes. So I wanted to write very literally about things and very directly about situations and things. Not like a name drop people or speak, you know, so flagrantly that it's obvious or could cause offence to any parties, but obvious enough to me as a writer that I feel comfortable that I have finally dealt with it and kind of like, do you know what I mean? I've spoken upon this and now it is done. So I think that that's probably one of the biggest shifts with this one is the fact that, yeah, it is much more literal. That's where the directness comes from. You know, I could very much tell you what each track, what it's pertaining to as far as like life story and things like this, because it's not all necessarily, as much as it's literal, about current events. Some of it is still reflective looking back, because I don't think you can be truly honest about where you're at with some things in your life without actually acknowledging the stuff that's happened, the sort of like ripple effect that has on the rest of your life. So yeah, I think that the directness is just that. It's much more personal in that respect as well, because I'm not trying to be clever. I'm not trying to take a concept and weave visuals and things like this. I'm just talking about how I think and feel and my experience in some stuff and where I'm at with it at this point. But I think every track still at the end of it sort of has this sort of, it does have a sort of resolutionary feeling. Like I think the way the album ends in particular is like such a sort of jewel in the crown. It's such a sort of sigh of relief almost. Do you know what I mean? Like, and fun fact, it's 100% the highest note that I have ever recorded. Yet. So I have really set a bar for, they were joking at band practice when we were rehearsing it, and I kept nailing it because like it was funny at the start of practice. I was like, that note, man, like when I'm practicing at home, I'm just a semitone off. Like it's just so, but in practice, I'm nailing it to the wall every time. And they've started joking, like, oh, what note are we getting? Like, you'll need to work out what the next high note it's going to be on the next one. It's like, might be the last highest high note I do. Like,
I mean, I've definitely written down in my notes for that song that you've got some proper kind of Mariah Carey-esque high notes. So yeah, I fully understand that.
Honestly, do you know what that is? That sort of outro vocal was a very physical expression of a relief of frustration for me. That note is like freedom. Is just like putting your hands in the air, like, and just it felt so good. Like it wasn't, I hadn't like written it to do that at all. Like it just sort of happened when I was recording. I was like, oh shit, save. Do you know what I mean? And when I listened to it back, I was like, wow, like, yeah, no, that's dope. I'm done for the day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, like, yeah, it was very real for me in the moment recording that outro, because I did do all the other layers first, because obviously there's loads of harmonies in that track, Brand New it's called. So I'd done all the sort of main bulk of it, and I was just free to sort of riff that outro a little bit. But I think you can hear it in my voice, like it is a total, like my whole body goes into that outro, like everything. And I think if you come to the album launch and see me do that, like it's everything I am and have goes into me singing some of these songs. And I think that's what makes me a different artist, is that, yeah, like you feel what I feel sometimes when I do what I do. And that matters to me that people say that. And I take that really seriously, because some of my most influential people is because how they make me feel, not how they sound. And Portishead's a great example. Loads of folk find Beth a very polarizing vocalist. Do you know what I mean? But she makes me feel things, man. Do you know what I mean? Not only do I think it sounds beautiful, but the emotive response I have to the sounds that she makes sometimes. That's the kind of things that make real performance to me, like as a performer, but also as a consumer of beautiful music. Like that's what really impresses me. When you move me, like that's a powerful thing. Like it doesn't just happen as well. Like that takes real effort and practice and honing of that craft. So yeah.
I think having listened to this album back to back with Dummy, you can definitely hear a lot more of those. I mean, you alluded to it yourself earlier. You can hear a lot more of those Portishead influences than maybe even you kind of thought at first.
Yeah.
And like the opening track, Deep Down, has got that kind of mysterious kind of intrigue, that sort of almost like film noir kind of almost sort of sci-fi B-movie kind of thing to it, a little bit in there. And yeah, you can, having, like I said, listening to them side by side, you can kind of get that a lot more. I really love the bass on that. The bass tone on there is just absolutely magnificent. Like and that was that kind of the sort of metal and heavier kind of side of the music kind of creeping into your music. I do love that bass tone.
Yeah, me too. It's monstrous when it comes in. Like it's quite funny because like when I've been showing the album to people, obviously that's the first track that starts, and it's got that quite sort of, mellow intro, that quite cinematic-y sort of intro. Do you know what I mean? A lot of what I've done as well is thinking towards the live show and the presentation, the visuals and things like that. So this is why these things musically happen as well. But yeah, when that bass line, when that first wow, wow, wow comes in, like everyone who I've ever shown it to like goes, whoa, like oh yes, do you know what I mean? It kind of really, it hits you almost unexpectedly. I think that tone being so dirty and distorted and really wide, and it just fills out the whole tune all of a sudden. It almost sonically shifts the whole track. Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah, I'm very proud of that bass tone. It is saved. now.
Yeah, you should be selling it as one of these plugins you get.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm actually relying on lots of like VSTs and plugins to make, a lot of these sounds. So that one in particular was built in Guitar Rig, which I use a lot, actually, not only for instruments, but for some vocal stuff as well. So yeah, but it is saved as a little preset now.
Nice.
I think it's called Dirty Bass. Dirty.
Yeah, I mean, I think both in agreement that, that Defixio is an amazing album. And kind of go back to what we were kind of talking about earlier on in terms of, listening to artists that move you. I mean, in terms of your lyrics are consistently effervescent and amazing, Becca. Like, they are just phenomenal. There's so many tracks in this album that just do that. They just move you. Like Get Hyped, for example, is 100% certified banger. You know what I mean? You can't help but kind of jive a wee bit about in your in your seat or wherever you are listening to. I've kind of described here as the chorus in particular is just pure headbanger, booky as fuck, just chock full of swagger and confidence. And that's something that I got. You mentioned kind of like Beth. I think it's Beth Gibbons, isn't it? The kind of lead singer from Portishead. I think you're right. I think her vocals probably are quite polarizing. And I can see similarities, in Defixio and kind of Dummy. But in terms of your lyrics, I always felt that your lyrics were kind of like confident, self-assured, Whereas I think there's maybe a bit more of a kind of fragility to kind of Beth Gibbons' vocal delivery.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like the softness with which she can deliver some things where you can almost like hear how close she is to the mic, almost kissing it to deliver these soft notes, but that they can really give you that goosebumpy, like, whoa, because it still has like this, as much as there's not that volume push behind it, the emotive push that comes with some of that, like, she's an amazing recording artist. Like, she's also incredible live. I don't know if you've watched much of like Portishead live, but fuck me, incredible. Like, she sounds just like on record live, and on record she sounds like none other, in my opinion. She's got such an incredibly unique voice and style of delivery, like another person who's very much found their sound. But then as well, like with later Portishead stuff, she did use a bit more of the kind of full voice, like, and lower range of her voice and things like that. And that's so interesting. That's one of my favorite things about having favorite singers, is hearing their voices change and evolve. Like, another vocalist I love, who I don't tend to cite very often as an influence, but I tend to more cite the Gorillaz. But Damon Albarn, like, that guy's voice just gets better and better and better, and like he gets more and more interesting to me as an artist the older he gets as well. Like, so I think that Beth, her voice, as much as in the early days, it was all about that sort of more the higher range and very soft delivery and quite gentle. She's had a bit of an evolution as well with her delivery. It's nice to watch and hear. Like, she's amazing. I love her. I obviously, what I do is in no way the style of what she does, but as far as the production and mixing and mastering and stuff, like 100%, that's where the Portishead sort of influence creeps in, I would say.
I'm very much interested in kind of how you put all of this stuff together, but not just the construction of the songs, like the running order of things, because you've got a song like There's Love, which is quite a chill song that's quite uplifting. It's like a really nice sort of R&B song, but it's actually got lots of depth in it. But then you follow that song up with What Now, and the way that opens is just completely devastating. That kind of soundscape you create with, I think it's vocals, but it's sort of modulated in a way, but it just sounds completely devastating as soon as you go from the end of that sort of quite a bubbly song to this just crush. And it's almost apocalyptic in the way that it turns out. Is that something you think about when you're writing the songs, or is that something that comes later when you've got kind of some material and you're just trying to figure out how it should all fit together?
Yeah, so with this one, and I think also with Speak No Evil, actually, as soon as I was sort of shortlisting what tracks looked like sort of top contenders for the next record, I would put them in folders in running orders. And then the next time I was coming in and either working on a track and rebouncing it out with extra layers or whatever and putting it back in the folder, I would readjust the running order to what I think is better. So for the most part, a lot of Defixio stayed in the same running order from about half of the record being done, basically. And then there was a few tracks that got added that I then felt like I had to kind of find where they placed in between this other bulk. So There's Love in particular, it's quite interesting that it came up, is very much placed slap bang in the middle as a palate cleanser, because obviously with Deep Down, Why I'm Still Smoking, Feel Me and Get Hype, it's like this kind of steady incline of energy to get hype, which is so energetic and like literally full of sonic booms and things like that in the track and stuff. Like it's just such a sort of explosion of energy. To me, I personally, when I have had an explosion of energy, I tend to crash pretty hard, man. And also, I think that part of this record as well is sort of categorizing the progression of the journey quite nicely as well, as far as like what each song is kind of talking about and stuff like that. And it feels like with There's Love, it's so optimistic. It's like it's such a wee cheesy belter, do you know what I mean? But then going into What Now, it's just the sort of reminder of the fact that like it doesn't matter how happy or good or settled things are, it doesn't escape you from the potential of stress or darkness coming into your life, whether it's personally or because of the people you love around you having adversity. So that's why that song's very much, it's obviously me and Gary was on the last record. I wanted to work with him again. That tune we wrote together on a very emotional night after no planning on doing music. We'd actually gone for a night out and then came back and ended up just being like, oh, shall we go and write? Like, we're, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we should write, and made this tune with basically me and him having a conversation that was very true to the night, of him going through a bit of a rough patch and me sort of trying to encourage him and understand where he's at and be there for him. And do you know what I mean? Just that sort of genuine friendship thing where you can get to a point and be like, yeah, but you're badass. So what now, man? Like, you know where you're at. You know things aren't great the now, but you know things are going to be good. And I know things are going to be good because you are a boss at making things good. So, like, do you know what I mean? And his verse is so perfect because it does start in that place where he's talking about where he's at, but then it goes like along with the tune of, as the verse goes on, the positivity rises and rises and rises. And that's just sort of, it almost feels like that tune is a nice follow on from I'll Carry You. Like I'll Carry You from Speaking Evil that he was on was about, mate, I'll be there for you. This one's like, I'm here for you now. Something's happened and I'm here for you. Do you know what I mean? It's like the proof in the pudding of that first sort of chapter we did together, that in this chapter that, yeah, I'm here to carry you today. What's happening? So there's thought goes into all of it. And even the fact that the running order goes, what now? Follow the leader. Like, don't think I didn't think about that one and think that's an absolute belter, by the way.
It absolutely is, yeah.
Now, well, yeah, follow the leader. Come on, like, come on, let's go.
Yeah, I love that lyric, follow the leader, strong-willed mama, different kind of senorita. I think that's great.
Thank you. Me too. It's a giggle. It's a giggle. My
Yeah,
back
yeah.
love it in particular because they're like, it is so satisfying to do senorita in a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
And that song, I think you did mention sort of about referencing Speak No Evil and stuff like that. And I think in that song you talk about having a personal defixio, and you later say, I tell you all to speak no evil. You're clearly crazy if you think there ain't a sequel. So I did kind of picked up on some of that, at least. Maybe not.
Yeah,
not
nicely
all of it.
done. I love that tune. It's such a big swag fest. Like, I don't tend to do tunes as well where it's just all rapping, you know what I mean? So like there's literally just right at the end of the song where I do just like a little hey, 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 hey. That's the one bit of singing you're getting right at the end, do you know what I mean? But I kind of needed to do that. It was when I was doing my ad libs and I was like, I sang a wee bit. That'll stay. It's all right. That can be the one bit of singing in this belter.
There's some new metal guitars in there as well, I think.
Yeah, there
Just
is.
in the
Yeah.
background, yeah.
they were played on an acoustic guitar, and then I did a lot of surgery on them to make them sound that gnarly. Trust and believe, that was good fun. Electric was dubbed, so I whacked, I whacked at my acoustic, and I was proper like chung chung chung. It was so funny, man. I was all by myself. It was glorious, but I had such a giggle doing that, and it did take a lot of work to sort of make it sound like it wasn't on an acoustic, but it was.
Oh,
But it
yeah,
sounded
you never would have known. Yeah.
Nah.
behind the scenes information.
I mean, like Grant said, it's an absolutely fantastic album. I mean, we could be here all night just talking about each and every song on this album and just picking out loads of detail. But one thing I would like to ask actually is there are a lot of times where you have layered vocals and harmonies, and is that always just you, or and you've layered up, or do you have you had people in a room recording? Because there's sort of like choir, sort of gospel-esque moments as well.
So the vast majority of them are me, but I do also on this record, which I'm really pleased about because I didn't get a chance to record or on the last record, but my backing singer Jen, now named Jen Gibson, formerly Jen Leach because she got married in the summer. She recorded vocals on Feel Me, Get Hype and Brand New, and I think What Now, but the rest of it is the bulk of layering of harmonies and stuff is me. We actually counted them in Brand New a few weeks ago when I was doing the rehearsals with. I've got two backing singers now because Erin's joined, so I was going into the original projects to mute certain vocals and things like that for us to practice to, and they were like, how many vocal takes are in this? And I counted and it was over 40 that were just all and then there was like 6 of Jen as well on top of that, so it sounds like a choir, like a wall of sound for a reason. But then when I'm doing that, I don't just sing, different notes. I use different parts of my voice as well and use the mic differently at different distances to give the impression of different voices. It was a technique I learned years ago doing like session work and stuff about, if you do a take in your higher range, that you do it full voice once, soft once, head voice once. Do you know what I mean? All these kind of things where you're slightly changing the delivery and the tone each time. And then depending on how you mix that in level wise, you can very much give the impression that it is potentially a couple of different vocalists doing takes. So that's just skills I've learned. I've kind of mastered my voice at this point. So I try to get the most out of it as I can and all, because I do think it is sort of my best asset. So it deserves to get the shine when a record is forever. So so I go tonto. The older I get, it's even more ridiculous. Brand New is probably the most vocals of any tune I've ever done. And Seraph, I don't doubt, because of what I'm planning for it, potentially could even be even more ridiculous. But that's what we like to see, some more ridiculous progression. So I'll maybe get a chat with you for the next album, and I'll be like, oh yeah, you thought Brand New was a lot of tracks. Not only
Well, that's
an actual choir this time as well, who all did 3 a pop. But do you know what I mean? That'd be amazing.
I was gonna say that sounds like a type of magic. Like just to have that thought process, Becca, is just mind blowing to me. Like it's phenomenal.
Oh, I don't know. I think I've been doing singing forever and literally selling my voice, doing session work for other people and stuff. You do just kind of it doesn't all just come from, natural instinct. It is learned things. It's tricks of the trade and things like that. So I'm not boneheaded when it comes to creative stuff. Any good sort of things I've learned or can apply to make something a bit more special and spectacular, and just put more thought into what I'm doing, I think just gets the best result. I'm a bit pernickety. So also, if I was just to layer my voice the exact same way over and over again, it does this weird sort of phasey thing where, do you know what I mean? It's like sonically things cancel each other out and it just doesn't sound as nice as there being different vocal dynamics happening between each take. So I just love good sounds. Do you know what I mean? I just want things to sound amazing. So I'm willing to work a bit harder and be a bit more meticulous for that stuff for it to sound awesome.
Yeah, you've definitely achieved that on this album and on Speak No Evil as well, but yeah, perhaps even more so on this new one.
Oh, that makes me happy you said that. Do you mind if I ask you if you have a favourite off of Defixio? Because it's coming out very soon. Like, to get some, what is it called again? Like that sort of commercial feedback sort of thing, customer review type situation or whatever.
I mean, it's really hard just to pick one. Like, I mean, Get Hype, obviously. Get Hype. We reviewed Why I'm Still Smoking, featuring Slippery Trash Mouth. I thought that was really interesting. Like, again, kind of back to that idea that, feeling cinematic, feeling grand, feeling theatrical. Like, I thought it was like really interesting that you almost kind of turned the whole kind of verse, chorus, verse thing on its head, because you would imagine the chorus section to be like the uplifting kind of bright part of the song, and that's not the case in this song. Like, the chorus is quite spooky. Like,
Very spooky.
it is. It's like kind of, yeah, like horror movie-esque. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was just a really cool and clever thing to do. What Now? Yeah, What Now is a really good track. Really loved that as well. I mean, I could. I mean, there's no bad song on that album, Becca.
Yeah,
I
think if I was pushed, I think I would probably go for Brand New, because there's bits of it that remind me of the Avalanches for some reason, which I quite
I
like.
got that as well, man. Got that as well.
And I really like the kind of idea of it being like an open letter from the present to the past. I really like that idea, and it being the subject matter being quite dark, but overall it being a message kind of love that comes through. So yeah, I really think that is definitely up there of my favourite songs.
That is probably the most personal track for me on the record. And yeah, like the first verse is literally me reaching out to a person for help, and then the second verse is them literally reaching back to me, like, and is very much based in real life experience and how that made me feel to be acknowledged and accepted by somebody to change a really terrible situation that we both found ourselves in. So it's a very special tune. It's my mom's favourite as well. So, like that's always good when your mom likes your tunes. So yeah, man. I love that song. It's a very important tune to me, and it was nice to make, because I didn't know if I'd kind of be able to write about that whole situation and find a way to do it that made me feel comfortable and like I wasn't dwelling. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I love that tune for that. That it is just like, yeah, onwards. Like, do you know what I mean? It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Like I said at the start, we're both honoured to get the chance to hear it before a lot of other people. So we're looking forward to it coming out on the 13th of December. And yeah, for your launch party, and it's the 18th of January, Saturday.
It sure is. It's Saturday, the 18th of January at Room 2 in Glasgow. Tickets are only a tenner, and for that cheap and cheerful price, you get myself with my merry band of the Rockets. You get Frank's House, who are amazing. If you've not heard of them, they're pretty new on the scene. Check them out. They're exceptional. Good friends of mine from Paisley. You also have the hip hop legend that is Mog, one of my best buddies, and just so chuffed. It's been a long while since we've been able to like be at the same gig, let alone sharing the stage together. So that's going to be special. We're planning some cool stuff together as a wee surprise before and on the night. And then also Pro Focus, who, if you've not heard of, I don't know how, because he's been everywhere and he's been grafting, and a good friend of mine as well. He's got such a good heart. He's got such a great work ethic. He brings amazing energy to every gig he plays. So you're really getting a bargain at your ticket price for all those amazing people. And then there is also going to be special guests. We've not announced them yet, but there will be some other cool cats popping up as well. So just keep your eyes peeled to my social media for wee announcements and stuff. It should be cool.
Sounds good. I actually saw Pro Focus at Sketchy Beats. I can't remember when it was, sometime last year I think it was, and he was brilliant. Yeah, I was really impressed by him.
I think I might have potentially meant to have been at a gig at Sketches with Pro.
I think it was that one, yeah. I think it was that one, yeah.
I couldn't go because I was ill or something like that, or I'd like injured myself. I do injure myself quite frequently and stuff. So it was I'd done something, and I just had to like phone Word, because Word, who runs them, is a really good mate of mine. So I'm so sorry, I can't come. And he was like, don't worry. I think I made up for it a few months later, and then went to Sketches the start of the summer or something, and brought Stu with me to make up for the fact that I hadn't made it the last time he booked me. So Sketches is mental. Like it's lovely. It's got such a good wee vibe about it, but it's nuts. Like I've played in there before where it has been just absolutely rammed. Like, and then the crowd, if they're rammed, kind of gradually creep more into that little tiny bit of space you've got to perform in. And oh man, it's nuts. It's a good vibe. It's a good laugh. And Naomi, who runs it, is just a lovely, lovely person as well. If you've ever met her, then you know they're good people.
It's a cool wee venue. A cool wee venue.
Deep down I know that I'm blessed for sure. My loyalty has caused me so much pain and good. Time once when things were simpler, I believed people could change before they create their demise. Growing up and realizing the art within the act. No knife left in my back. My soul to yours attract. I didn't wanna get hyped, nah, but this beat is so right. I'm waiting for the moment when I can let it go. Love in there for you from me. I don't care. Eager to fall willingly into what you give to me. They gave a damn, they would come running. If I gave a damn, I would feel something other than this whole bunch of nothing. Follow the leader, strong-willed mama, different kind of senorita. Band the spidge around, come and tell me, have you seen her? 5'7", up your music, devil diva, total supreme. Not boasting, want a lifetime, I'm hosting, baby coasting. You make me feel right
It's not finished. It's finished.